Hey guys, it's Crystal from livingwithgastroparesis.com and today's Q&A Friday. So I have 3 questions that I'm going to answer today and let's get started. The first one says, "Hi Crystal, my daughter will be getting married in June. Congratulations. Is there a GP-friendly drink that I can toast with at her wedding?" First of all, speaking of weddings, yesterday was my 4th wedding anniversary, so I posted on my blog at livingwithgastroparesis.com all the ways in which I made my own wedding GP friendly. So if you are a GPer out there who is planning a wedding, make sure you check that out for some tips. Back to the question. In general, alcohol is not really a good idea for people with gastroparesis, and I say that for a few reasons. First, it's irritating to the stomach, so if you have any kind of gastritis or irritation or inflammation in your stomach due to the gastroparesis, it's going to exacerbate that. Secondly, it can cause dehydration, which is really bad for nausea, vomiting, headaches. It can kind of perpetuate the cycle of your GP symptoms. Third, it actually weakens the LES, which is the lower esophageal sphincter, and that's the muscle between the esophagus and the stomach that closes to keep food in the stomach from refluxing back into the esophagus. And so what alcohol does is actually weakens that muscle and makes it easier for the contents of the stomach to flow back into the esophagus, causing heartburn and other GERD symptoms. So if you have problems with GERD in addition to your gastroparesis, then alcohol is really not a good idea. Alcohol also impairs sleep, so it makes it easier for you to fall asleep initially, but it impairs the quality of the sleep throughout the night. And so they've actually found that for people with functional GI disorders, even one night of lack of sleep can increase symptoms the next day. And lastly, there was a study that was published in BMJ last December, just about a year ago, that looked at the effect of drinking alcohol with a fondue meal. It was done in Switzerland, so they did it with fondue, but they actually found that, first of all, they found that fondue empties very slowly from the stomach on its own. The people who did not drink alcohol emptied the meal in about 6 hours. The people who drank 1 shot of alcohol emptied the meal in 9 hours. So if you think about that difference in people with normal digestion, for people with gastroparesis, it's likely that alcohol is really going to slow the digestion of your meal, especially if your meal does contain some fat. So if you're eating a meal at this wedding, back to the question, if you're going to be eating real food at the wedding that may be a little higher in fat than you're used to, mixing that with alcohol is probably a bad idea. That's probably going to exacerbate your symptoms. Some people with gastroparesis find that they do fine with alcohol in moderation, infrequently, for special occasions. It's really a personal thing. I really wouldn't wait till the wedding to test it out. So if you do plan to have a drink at the wedding, I really would try that in advance and see how you do. Personally, my advice would be to toast with ginger ale. At my own wedding, we skipped the champagne toast because I don't drink due to the gastroparesis, and so we had everyone toast with whatever they were drinking, and I was drinking ginger ale. So that would be my drink of choice. Like I said, some GPers do fine with a glass of white wine now and then, but it really depends on your personal tolerances. And overall, in general, alcohol is really not gastroparesis friendly. It's not really part of a gastroparesis management plan. So I hope that answers that question. The second question is a really, really, really important one, and I knew that this had to be something that I addressed on Q&A Friday because I'm sure there are many people in the same boat as the person who wrote this email. Basically, this is a young woman who was diagnosed with mild idiopathic gastroparesis, it says. And prior to having gastroparesis, she had a tendency to overeat. And so she would eat to the point of being very full. Obviously, with gastroparesis, that's an issue, and it became an issue for her. And she found a way to not do that, basically by really, really limiting her intake of food. And so she estimates that right now her total consumption of calories is about 400 calories a day. And that includes an apple or a little bit of yogurt for breakfast, a small salad or a small scoop of beans and rice for lunch, a little bit of salmon and a vegetable for dinner. And she says she takes vitamins, she drinks water, and she wants to know if it's bad that she's taking in so few calories. There are so many things I want to address about this email. And again, I'm doing this because I know that the person who wrote me this email is not the only person in this boat. So first of all, I want to address the calorie restriction. Yes, it's a problem that you're only eating 400 calories a day. I understand the reasoning, and I'm glad that you take vitamins. I'm glad that you drink a lot of water. But regardless, your body is not getting the nutrients that it needs. It's not getting the energy that it needs or the building blocks that it needs on 400 calories a day. Typically, we call anything under 1,200 calories a day or a restricted diet. And when you get to 400 calories a day, that's a very, very, very low-calorie starvation diet. A number of things can happen medically from such a low-calorie diet, things like anemia, bone loss, decreased immune function, so you're much more susceptible to colds and flus. Your thyroid function can actually slow down because everything in your body slows down to compensate for the fact that you're not getting enough fuel. At 400 calories a day, that doesn't even cover the energy that your body needs just to do daily bodily functions. And so everything slows down. So that can compromise immune function. You're likely to notice irregularities in your menstrual cycle. This can lead to infertility. It says in the email that you were married not too long ago. So if you and your husband plan to start a family, eating 400 calories a day could certainly affect your fertility. Obviously, low energy levels, poor concentration, so mental effects too, and certainly weight loss. If weight loss is not happening at 400 calories a day, that's what we would consider your body being in starvation mode, so to speak. So basically your metabolism kind of shuts down because it can't continue to process calories in the way it normally would because there's not enough calories, like I said, even for your body to function. And so it's really not healthy to be consuming so few calories. I also want to address the part about being prone to overeating prior to having gastroparesis and needing to find a way to really rein that in. Eating too few calories is really, in most cases, going to be counterproductive to that goal eventually. So what happens is when you're eating that small amount of calories, when you're undernourishing your body to that extent, you often lose the signals of hunger and fullness. And so a lot of times people with gastroparesis who go through periods where they really restrict their intake in order to manage their symptoms will find that they then come around to overeating because they can't get enough. And that's a response to the physiological processes that are going on when you starve your body, basically. And so I would be very cognizant about that as well. If this is being used as a means to control the urge to overeat, that's something that needs to be explored separately because it's very, very likely that that will come up again. And by following this kind of a restricted diet, you're really further impairing your body's signals that help you figure out when you're full, when you're hungry, when to stop eating, when to start eating. So the other thing I want to talk about is the types of food that are being consumed and the role that that can play in the amount that you're able to eat. She does point out in the email that she does feel full from the food that she's eating, and I would say that that's because she's really eating foods that are not gastroparesis friendly. So things like an apple, a raw apple is not considered gastroparesis friendly. Beans and rice, certainly not gastroparesis friendly. Salad, not gastroparesis friendly. So by changing up your diet to things that are gastroparesis friendly, you won't feel as full, you won't feel as symptomatic, and you'll likely be able to eat more, and you'll be able to better nourish your body, increase your caloric intake, get the adequate amount of vitamins and minerals that you really need. And aside from eating gastroparesis-friendly food, there are the other parts of a gastroparesis management plan that can really help to alleviate symptoms to the point where you are able to better nourish your body by eating more food. And so that ties into the last question. So this says, I was put on medication for gastroparesis and I feel like it's not really helping me at all. I assume lots of GPers feel this way. Are some people able to alter their diet and live without the meds? That would be my goal. So the answer to this is yes. There are a lot of people with gastroparesis who do not use medication to speed up the emptying of the stomach, whether because they choose not to due to the side effects or because the medications just don't work for them. And so I talk about in my group programs and in my new book that's coming out, a comprehensive gastroparesis management plan. And so a comprehensive management plan includes appropriate medical treatment, complementary therapy, dietary modification, nutrition and supplementation, supportive lifestyle practices, stress management, and coping skills. And those are all of the areas that you can address in order to better manage your symptoms. So appropriate medical treatment is one area, but it's only one area. And so there are a lot of things that you can do on your own, a lot of things that fall into self-care to help manage the symptoms of gastroparesis, whether or not the medication works for you. Even if medication does work, there are few instances in which medication works completely. So there aren't very many people who just take a prokinetic medication and then they feel great and they don't have to do anything else for symptom management. Most people, even if the medication works, still have to pay attention to some of these other areas of self-care. And so the more you can really integrate all of these pieces, the more you can focus on not just dietary modifications, but dietary modifications, making sure you're getting proper nutrition, supplementation, making sure you're doing the proper lifestyle things, physical activity, getting proper sleep, stress management, all of those things together, that's when you're going to notice the greatest benefit for symptom management. So I hope that answers your question. And I invite all of you over to facebook.com/livingwithgastroparesis to continue the conversation. Make sure you're on my mailing list. If you're not, go to bit.ly/GP signup. I have some really neat things coming up, a holiday giveaway, some exclusive announcements, so make sure you're on that mailing list. And I will see you next week for another Q&A Friday.